start by first acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which I live, the Turrbal people, and in which I work, the Jagera and Yugambeh people, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. As I travel the 32 kilometres from home in Newmarket to my workplace, through a white, dominant, industrialised landscape, I look for and am left searching for obvious elements of times past and value of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. As I arrive in Meadowbrook, where Indigenous culture is still rich in history, I notice the blaring contrast in acknowledged culture between the two sister cities. Culture may be rich, but cultural devastation is still strong. There is no sign of permanent camps housed by family groups where there once was, no expert handmade fishing nets by the river, and no Indigenous people dressed and painted in traditional wear. Despite this lack of immediate evidence, a rich history of Indigenous peoples, culture and survival is still represented and acknowledged today. In my workplace, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are acknowledged as the traditional custodians of the land before each meeting. Decisions are led by local Indigenous elders of the community. We have identified staff who facilitate a specific Indigenous suicide prevention and wellbeing program named Empara. This program empowers self-determination in Indigenous peoples. There are also visual connections to culture through artwork displayed around the centre. Each of these has been painted by local Indigenous artists. Around my home in Newmarket, obvious acknowledgement of the value of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and peoples is difficult to see. Upon exploring the land outside a dominant glaze and walking in the footsteps of the Turrbal people who lived in this area thousands of years before me, I come across what was once named Booyaba, a popular campsite at Newmarket on Enoggera Creek. Enoggera itself is derived from the Indigenous word Uwagara. Before European settlement, the land, the river and its streams were the source and support of life here. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities only used the land for things that they needed: shelter, water, food, weapons. They never overused or damaged this land. I must consider why the large difference in representation between two reasonably close areas, and believe it is due to the dominant viewpoint and myth being that Indigenous peoples live rurally or near the coastline and not near the city. It is unfathomable to me as to how Indigenous people and their way of life could be dismissed, and their homes be dispossessed and labelled no man's land. There is no doubt that through Australia's history, post-European settlement, that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples were structurally and purposefully disadvantaged. White privilege, though invisible, is evident in education, employment, the overrepresentation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the justice system, and in systems that privilege white people at every conceivable social, political and economic opportunity. The more I have learnt about true Australian and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, the more I struggle to reconcile my previous viewpoint. A once celebrated time of European settlement is now conflicted with Indigenous dispossession, dehumanisation, human massacre, forced removal and destruction. I find it extremely important to not just understand this true history myself, but to share this with others to empower true understanding and value of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and peoples, and aim to live as one.